Buddy, Howard Jacobson here. I am the director of what? No, that was an old job. I'm the chief of behavioral science at Wellstart Health. Can you tell that I have been fasting? So the old synapses are a little rusty. No. Wellstart Health, that's me, chief of behavioral science. I am the, don't tell me, host of the Plant Yourself podcast, and I'm the co-author of Sick to Fit. This gets easier. I'm 54 years old. My social security number is what? No, don't go there. So here's what I was thinking about today. There was an article in yesterday's New York Times, an op-ed piece that was very sweet by, can't remember his name. No surprise, fasting. Wait till you see me on day 4, which, and it was called Stop Making Fun of Vegans or something like that. And it was basically saying, you may not want to go vegan, but they have the ethics right and the environment right, and we should take it seriously. So, this is not about vegan. I don't advocate for health reasons that anyone achieve a vegan diet. Rather, we want a whole food, plant-based diet. But the point I wanted to make about that article is the fact that it needed to be written at all. Like, you wouldn't have an article like "Stop making fun of, Christians," or "Stop making fun of people who volunteer at the PTA book sale," right? Or anyone else who's doing, obviously good things in which they, sort of care about the world. But for some reason, and I know the reason, and you do too, vegans are fair game. And it's because we are perceived as killjoys, right? We're going to take away everybody's buzz. We're going to harsh on their yum. Right. So in the article, the op-ed talks about like jokes about vegans, like, basically we're trying to take away all the good things from people, and jokes about, is oral sex vegan and stuff like that. And like, basically we are portrayed as dry as dust, hyper serious, no fun, spoil sports. If you come across someone, a vegan character in a movie, it's almost always, a shy, inhibited, skinny girl who by the end has her transformation and like takes what she wants from life and, does all these wild, irresponsible things and ends up loving like cheeseburgers and fries and all that stuff. So, and it's because we are perceived as taking things away from people, as making people less happy with life. And of course, when we want to go and shift our own habits and behaviors, we can feel the same way about ourselves, right? One part of us can feel that way, resentful about some other part of us. Like, the part that says, look, let's get responsible here. We want to be able to, walk down the aisle for our grandkids' weddings. We want to be able to climb the mountains when we go on vacation. I want to be off these meds. I don't want to die young. All this like grown up stuff. And the other part is going, yeah, but bacon, yippee, right? The same people who are posting pictures, when someone posts a vegan meal, they comment, oh, that would be better with bacon, right? There's a part of us inside us as well that kind of has that same resentful feeling about the health changes that we want to make, the dietary improvements. And here's the irony. That when you really slow down and pay attention to your life, it's the bad habits that are actually making you less happy globally, right? Like there's that whole problem of the time shifting, right? That bad habits make us happy now and unhappy later. But they don't make us unhappy that much later, right? So if you come home and you smash, you had a stressful day and you open the freezer, it's not dinner time yet, it will be in half an hour, but you can like have a little something, and you smash a pint of Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs, or you eat like 3/4 of a bag of kettle chips. How quickly does that high fade into grossness and heavy, greasy, fatty feeling and just self-loathing. Right? It's not all that long. But the trouble, and the thing is, we then have a pattern and a template and a mechanism for dealing with our bad feelings, because we already dealt with our bad feelings. I was stressed, I was tired, I was fatigued, I was annoyed. I know how to deal with bad feelings. We were talking about this yesterday. I know how to deal with bad feelings by eating them away or drowning them out with food. So now I've got a whole new set of bad feelings. Hey, Lynn. A whole new set of bad feelings that are the sequelae, the consequences of my actions to get rid of the first set of bad feelings. Well, let's double down. Let's double down on drowning out and distracting. Hey, Elizabeth. Let's double down on making the secondary bad feelings go away with, I don't know, Facebook or Instagram or pornography, or, reading some guilty pleasure magazine. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong in objectively with any of these things. They all can have their place used for good. It's the relationship we have with them, that we turn to these things to drown out bad feelings. And we can keep doing this because we live in a society in which the chief export and the chief domestic product is distraction, is consumption that distracts. Consumption of ideas, consumption of media, consumption of food, consumption of drugs. All right? So we're not worried about running out of consumption. There's always another thing to consume to make us get distracted or drown out or numb out the last thing that we consumed that made us feel bad. So if this is starting to sound like an emotional pyramid scheme, that's exactly what it is. And it can continue, an actual like Ponzi scheme, a Bernie Madoff sort of thing can continue until you run out of suckers, until you run out of people to fund it from the bottom so the people on the higher levels up can keep getting rich. But as soon as you run out, the whole thing collapses and you realize that it was a house of cards, that there was no wealth there. It was just a mirage. It was just people siphoning off the resources of the people, one rung below them. So when does this happen in our lives? Truth is, it doesn't actually have to happen ever. Because as you can see when you go out into the world and you see people who are morbidly obese in motorized carts with soda and cake and hot dogs in those carts, that there's not a point at which the Ponzi scheme ever runs out, because it's self-perpetuated as a habit loop in our minds, and we can take ourselves into our grave continually numbing out. Now the thing can crash when we have a mental breakdown, right? So, hey, Mia from Pittsburgh, drive carefully. It can break down when we have a mental breakdown, some sort of like deep depression or debilitating panic attacks or schizophrenia or a manic episode, right? All of a sudden we realize, okay, nothing's working. And at that point, the old drugs we've been taking, the distraction drugs, the consumption, no longer gets through, right? It's hard to really consume media when you're deeply depressed. Right? You just feel like existentially you've reached the end of your rope. So sometimes these mental breakdowns are a way of our bodies, our minds, our spirits pulling the brakes, saying maybe try a different path. Sometimes a physical breakdown can be so profound, but those can be hard to bounce back from. If it's a stroke, if it's enough vascular damage in the cerebral cortex to cause dementia. So let's assume, for the most part, for most of us, we can keep riding this consumption distraction train indefinitely. What's it getting us? Is it getting us the life we want? Is it getting us the relationships we want? Is it getting us the opportunities we want, the movement we want, the physicality that we want, the self-image that we want? Or is it actually kind of yucky? Is it leading us down a path that we don't want to go to? So there's the irony, right? If we paid attention at any point along this path of continually compounding consumption and distraction and drowning out and numbing out, at any point along this path, if we start paying attention and drop into our bodies and say, does this feel good? Does this feel good emotionally? Does it feel good physically sensationally in the body? And we realize, no, it doesn't. That's the point at which we interrupt the entire pattern. So that's why the title of this talk is It's Never Too Late to Have a Miserable Binge. Because when we have a binge, in the moment, we love it. Yum, 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 tastes good. We can even pay a little bit of attention to it. Not too much, because then we realize it's too greasy, too salty, too fatty, too much, too fast. But, we get the general idea, like, well, I'm on Facebook and I'm mindlessly filling my mouth with some junk food. And I'm like, yeah, this is good. And if I were to pay attention in that moment and chew deeply and pay attention to it, I'd be like, oh, this is gross. This is too much. I'm full already. What am I doing? All right? So a miserable binge in that moment can be a very good thing. It can teach us that the thing we're doing isn't working. Right? Elizabeth says there can come a point where the body forces you to listen. Right? Sometimes it does. Sometimes we're lucky when it does. Sometimes we're unlucky when it does. My goal is to reach as many people as possible before that point, right? So let's plug in our cell phones and recharge them before we get into the red zone. Elizabeth, love that image that you drew and shared on Facebook. So if we have a miserable binge right in the moment, that's golden. Then we're like, oh, not going to do that again. So Judd Brewer of Eat Right Now and drjudd.com, drjudd.com, uses the metaphor of like, if you ever sit in the mall, sitting on Santa's lap, and you pull off the beard, and then you see it's not really Santa, it's just a guy in a red suit and a fake beard. You can't unknow that. You can't continue to believe that that's Santa Claus after you've ripped off the beard. And so having a bad binge in the middle of binging, in the middle of what should be pleasurable, realizing that this is yucky, this is making me uncomfortable, you then feed back that information, which changes the habit loop. But you don't have to do it then. You can catch it the next day, or 3 weeks later, or 3 months later, because it's all part of the same pattern. It's all about consumption to cover over yucky feelings. And so at any point, and there's only one point, of course, right? And that point is right now. Now is the only point that we ever get to break that cycle, to drop into sensation. And it's going to be yucky sensation, and to drop into feeling and emotion. There are going to be yucky feelings and emotions, right? Because we've been building them through this strategy, through this failed strategy of trying to be happy. And that's the irony for this thing about people resent vegans for trying to take away their bacon, or we resent the part of ourselves that's trying to make us be healthy. Because we're all on the same team. We all want the same thing. We all want a better life, feeling good, being happy. The difference is that one strategy is to pay attention, and the other strategy is to purposefully turn our attention away and be mindless. So it's the difference between driving down the street and driving down the street blindfolded. We both want to get there, but one strategy is going to lead us to avoid missteps and to take the most efficient and most beautiful and most satisfying route. And the other is going to cause a wreck in our lives and probably a lot of other people's as well. Couple of things before I go. High voice. Couple of things before I go. One is Kevin and I, Kevin Davis of Wellstart Health and I are going to be offering another coach training, coach certificate. Well, we give you certification, beautiful certificate, coach training to become a wellness coach. And it's going to start, we think we decided early November. So we're going to really have time to get our act together to share it with people. So there's 3 types of folks we're looking for to take this coach training program. One is people who already work in the health field. So you could be a nurse or a doctor or some allied professional, a dietitian, and you just want to get better at helping patients implement what you're telling them to do. So especially for lifestyle practitioners, we don't really work with people who are going to you could help someone take their meds. In some cases, that's a good idea, but it's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about, generative, meaningful, deep lifestyle changes. So if you work with people in a health or medical capacity, and maybe you don't have any tools, and all you've ever taught is I'm the boss and you have to do what I say, and how well does that work? Or maybe you got a course in motivational interviewing, which is an excellent, excellent tool for the first conversation and generally a very silly tool to apply later on and actually backfires most of the time. So that's one type of person. Second type is someone who would like to become a wellness coach, either for friends and family or as a profession. So you want to have the chops so you can go out and help people. Maybe, you've been turned on by lifestyle medicine, by the whole food plant-based message, and you're like, why doesn't the world know about this? I want to do my part. And you don't feel like going back to school to becoming a doctor, a nurse, a dietitian, and you just want a simple practice where you get to impact people's lives in a really powerful, meaningful, overt way, and you get lots of great feedback and you can see the effect that you're having on people. So our program, I believe, Elizabeth is on the call now. Maybe she can confirm or deny. I think it gives you everything you need to begin a coaching practice with some serious skills. So there's a lot of coach training out there that gives you lots of theory and lots of tools, and doesn't really give you a structure for using them. So we pride ourselves on few tools, keep it simple, and really focus on the structure. Elizabeth says, excellent and powerful program with 4 exclamation points. Woohoo! Third group are, this is a little more delicate, but coaches who feel like you really could up your game, right? Because it's just another methodology, another skill set. But also before I learned what I teach in this program, I was a good coach, but I was kind of hit or miss. I didn't have a predictable process, a reliable process. Elizabeth says, my practice client said it works so fast. Yeah, that's the problem. You need a lot of turnover if people start making fast progress. It's much better to work with them for 20 years in analysis on the couch. It's a much better financial model, but it feels good to help them quickly. Ron says you absolutely gain the skills needed to be a coach. Got a couple of boosters on this Facebook Live. Thank you. So if you want another set of skills, or you feel like you just don't have a methodology for applying all the wonderful tools you do have, you can check it out. And we're not ready to start the program yet, but you could sign up for an interview because we only take people that I've interviewed and made sure the program is right for them and they're right for the program, because it is very communally based. And so if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to wellstartcoach.com. You can read all about it. You can get on the mailing list and get notified when we open enrollment. And I believe at this point you can go and sign up for that enrollment interview. It's $25, just a little hurdle to make sure everybody who does it is serious. And if you end up not doing it, that's refundable. And if you end up doing it, you get that taken away from the tuition. And the tuition, Kevin, I don't think we're raising the price this time. I think it's $997. It's a 12-week intensive program, a class a week, and then an additional 9 months of reunion/supervision calls. So if you're interested, wellstartcoach.com. Otherwise, thank you, Ron and Elizabeth, for sharing your perspectives. I'll put that link in a comment. So, in fact, if you guys are on, you could type that link now. That'd be cool. Then I don't have to remember to do it with my glucose-deprived neocortex. Otherwise, thanks, everybody. It was great connecting. If you have any questions, as always, just post them in comments. It's much easier for me to answer questions than to sort of pull stuff out of thin air, is what I was going to say, every single time. So thanks, everybody. Great talking. See you again soon. Have a great day.